So this is the SCD slowly changing dimension, and let's understand first what exactly the SCD, what is the problem inside the SCD, why we are more interested in type 1 and type 2. So in SCD, we are going to solve mapping data flow in Azure Data Factory hands-on. Where we will have the dataset in the Azure SQL and the blob storage somewhere, and we will try to move data from Azure to blob or blob to Azure SQL, but try to remove the type 1 and type 2 SCD. So what is the SCD here? First, let's say techniques. It's a techniques to manage history within data warehouse. Multiple techniques based on various historical data policy enable data warehouse to appropriately manage historical regardless of policy transaction applications. For example, we had the new data set, and here we had the uh, new data set is changing. For example, my contact number is changing, and for very long time I'm using the same contact number, and suddenly I change my contact number. So my name, address, employee ID, and PAN card, Aadhaar card, everything remains same, but this contact number got changed. So in that scenario, what happened in the historical data? We just overwrite the old data, and we do not keep the history. We do not retention the history of the old data, and we just change the contact number of Saxena. This changing is called type 1 because we are dealing with the historical data, and this is the slowly changing dimension, because definitely no one will have the same contact number for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, right? So this is the type 1. When we are going to change the same problem, but we are going to maintain history, like I'm going to maintain what was the last contact number of Sachin Saxena, and keeping the record of last contact number and the recent contact number both. So we will be calling it type 2. Why type 2? Because we are maintaining this history as well. So this is the type 2, and here is the maintain limited history, so we will call it type 3 as well, right? I'll show the example, then we will get to know what exactly here. So type 1, in place, update ETL pattern, create the new dimension table row, each new version history, a small number of dimension table columns for multiple version of history itself. So this is the simplest one. Type 1 is simplest. There is type 0 as well. The interview may ask like what is type 0. So you will say in type 0 we do not change or we do not update or alter the data in a new pattern, but we keep it remain unchanged. That is type 0. But in type 1 we just simply change the data set, but no history maintained here. So let's see type 1 here. For example, this is the replacing old value with the new value. This column 3 is having this GHI and STU, and same array and column in database are there. Now the after type 1, the GHI is changed from YZGG. So this is just this value is replaced old value with new value. Same row and column in the database is remaining here. This is the type 1. We are not going to increase any row. We are not going to increase any column. So we are just changing that particular value. For example, if it is my contact number, then it is the same. So it's going to replace old value with new value, same row and column, common use case, correcting errors, and it's just correcting errors here, right? You can say that this is the type 1, this is type 2. Before explaining, people usually ask type 2 in the interview. So this is the next example of type 1. For example, my birth date is mistakenly or by mistake written there 2014, but it must have the 2004. So correct errors with type 1 SCD. After type 1, no column is being appended, no row has been appended, and we just treat it as error here. And we will do the same practice using the ADF, using the SQL cloud. So this is the straightforward, and this is the advantage, disadvantage. Now move to the type 2 SCD. So type 2 SCD is just existing row remain as it, but it is going to add new row to the dimension table. New row reflects current state of all attributes, complications with reporting and analytics. For example, this is the type 2, and here we had the birth date. So inside this 2004, we had this value where add an entirely new row to dimension table. So what is the dimension table? We are just adding new data here. Can you see this student key? This student key is updated here, and this is the home state, and this is the updated value, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to add a new version inside this table where I'm going to keep this value. Can you see this red one? This red one is also belonging to this TAD candidate who is having this home state PA, and birth date is same. If you look at the another row which is consisting the green one, so what exactly I'm going to look at it? I'm going to create a new student key. Student ID is same, student name is same, student first name is same, but home state is changed and birth date is also same. Just because of this home stored state, because the address of this candidate got changed here, I'm just creating a new row rather than changing in the old state or old version. I'm just creating a new version of this candidate. For this, in order to differentiation, or in order to create the uh, differentiation, I'm creating a new student key so that I can understand that this is the new row I had just added. And this really realistic projects you can add in your CV as well, so that you can say that I have done something intermediate kind of capstone project in ATA for Azure Data Factory, where we can go with the realistic project. And this is the uh, pure hands-on, and in general, not specifically we are doing practicing in the company itself. Company IT company industries are facing these challenges these days in order to deal with type 1, type 2, type 3, and so on. So it's going to handle reporting analytics before, and type 2 change needs to accurately reflect state of date. So it's going to deal with the report average student financial and amount of the last by home state. Last year Ted Young home state was PA. Now if Ted had financial aid last year, needs to group into PA, not CA. So this is the taken from the given example. Can you see? This is the another example. We had seen that TAD has changed from PA to CA. Home state now got changed. And also student key is also there. You can see this is now got changed. Everything is just showing here. Financial aid key, AY key, and sprint key, and everything is just treating using this green number, not the old one where we had. Okay, so this is the correct reporting with type 2 SCD. Could include neutral key. Also, in fact, still supports query as show or financial for 10 unwidely and takes significant storage for fact table with many dimensions and billions of rows here, right? Okay, now let's move to the hands-on how to perform this activity over the Azure portal. So for this, I'm going to perform the three things. So what are the necessary steps? So we had given the uh, we had going through the introduction of SCD. What exactly introduction of SCD, right? Uh, Once we have done the introduction, I'm going to see uh, create a Azure SQL Database. I'm going to create that instances inside the portal. In the third step, I'm going to create Azure. I'm going to create a blob storage database instances in the portal. All right. In the fourth step, I'm going to create ADF, Azure Data Factory, Azure Data
Data Factory.
Factory instances. So this is the next step, right? Then in the next step, I'll try to migrate data from blob storage to SQL storage, but keeping in mind that SCD2 type 2 is just got maintained. This is just maintaining type 2 operation, not type 1 or type 2, right? All right. Okay, so I'm going to open my SQL database. So currently I do not have any database here. I'm going to create this database, apply offer here, paid subscription is there, resource group, I do not have any resource group. I'm going to create resource group, name it like any name, database, just writing database, and I do not have any server currently, so I'm going to create this server name, and this is going to use SQL authentication and server name here, and this server name is Kumar 5 hash server 6, right? Now I'm having this server, my portal, using the same server. I'm going to networking. I'm going to assign public networking. Yes, yes. Then going to option my security. I'm not going to change anything here. Going to create the sample file. This will give to me all the compute and storage, or not only modify but also give a adventure works lt sample database, which will consist so many files, many tables. I'm not going to keep any tag, just review and create. So meanwhile, just this SQL database is being created. I'm going to create the another what the another we had done this second step, create Azure SQL database. Now I'm going to create blob storage for my uh, uh, CSV file. So I'm going to click this storage account here. Inside the storage account, I'm going to create storage account. Here the same resource group I'm going to use RG Surya, and I'm going to use storage blob Sachin and go for the next. So I'm not going to click over here. This part is for hierarchy namespace is for Azure Data Lake Storage 2 ADLS Gen 2 endpoints. So this is for ADLS Gen 2. I am not going to check this block. If it is checked, then it means this blob storage is belonging to ADLS Gen 2. So I'm going to keep it unchecked here. Then this is the networking. Not going to anything, remaining all other settings same. Review plus create. So this Azure portal is kind of a flight cockpit, like so many options are there, so many links are there, so many services are there, but you must know what exactly we are looking for. What are the purpose for us? So this is SQL database is got ready here. I'm just clicking over here, and here I'm also checking my containers. Inside the container, I'm going to click this container. The container name is input. Going to click on this input part. I'm just creating this container inside the storage blob Sachin. Inside the input, I'm going to upload an CSV file, random CSV file. Browse for file, which is already there in my PC, Azure Data Factory. Slowly change dimension. This input file is here. I just uploaded here. Input CSV, edit. You can see the content of this file. This is showing employee ID, name, country, department. One Sachin, India, CSE, and 4 rows are there, right? So this is
Yes.
the content of my blob stories. This is the CSV file inside the input container. Coming back to the database, here I can see the query editor from the left pane. This is the query editor in order to perform my query here. So I'm going to open this query editor. Inside this query editor, it's asking my credentials, server name and my password. I'm going to click OK. If it is not authorized, I'll have to include my firewall. If you remember in the very first, do you recall that that error I just added in the firewall?
Yes, Sachin.
So inside the table, we had so many tables are there. For example, this address table is there. So let's say I'm going to perform the SQL query. Select asterisk from sales address is there. So this sales is nothing but the database, and address is the table. So can you see this is showing all the content of my address? See this one? Everything is showing here. All right. But this is not the existing table. I'll have to create the same table which we had here, the same schema at least, or adding one or two row here in a same pattern, because it will be looking the same column name, like not the same, but at least content or schema must be the same. Why it's called schema, why it's not column name? Because column name might be different, employee ID might be employee in SQL, but at least parameter should be there. First column should be integer format, the name should be there, then country, then department. In the same order we must have the uh, schema here in the SQL server. So I'm going to open query. I'm going, okay, it's not, like cancel it out here. I'm going to open my SQL query. Inside the SQL query, I'm going to create this drop table. If this table is already there, I'm going to drop that table. Create table. This is going to create my table, and going to open this part. This is the this is gonna drop the table if it is already there. I'm going to create a table name student. If it is already there in my table, in my database, it will delete that and create a new one. So I'm going to create student table. What is the surrogate integer identity? It will increase the number by default number every time. 1 2 3 3 4 5 6. Every time row is increasing, it's just giving the unique number for this row. So we don't have to assign the uh, key number or primary key for this, but this is the automatic increments. Surrender key is there. Next column is employee ID, name and country, department. This is the same we had here in the employee ID, name, country, department. Can you see here? This is the same employee ID, employee ID, name, country, department in the same order as well, and all the respective data types showing in front of them. Just proceeding the same. Now, is active integer is there. What is the is active? If this is the current address of my, here we had the extra column which is called is active integer. What is the role of is active? For example, I have the contact number in my sheet. So let's say this is the contact number 8909603708, and it is got changed by 94560421 to this one. So in the active part, this would be the in is active. So in the active portion, this would be 0, and this would be flagged as 1, which is indicated that my current contact number is, this one is the active and this one is the non-active. This is disabled from my side. All right. But I'm going to keep it history as well, because this is the type 2, not the type 1. So in type 2, we keep track the history of contact number by mentioning that this is the disabled one and this is the enabled one. So this is the customer contact number. You need to contact to this number as well only, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to create this student table, run this print because it does not exist or do not permission there, right? Error cannot drop the table. Okay. So we cannot drop the table. So I'm going to comment it. So I'm going to create this table. Then fail to the already. Okay. So we had already there. Okay. Let's try with this new different name, STD. Can you see now this query is just come showing here. Let's see. Select STD or select asterisk from STD. So, so using this command, I can see how many columns do I have. I have surrender key, which is just unique number, employee ID, name, country, department, and is active. Let's insert something here. So insert the integer std key. I'm going to insert these two value 1. This is the 1, and I'm going to insert these 2, 3. Can you see 2 rows are inserted now? If I look at the content of this table again, can you see I'm having so did I mention anywhere surrender key inside this one? I didn't mention surrender key, but by default it's giving numbers 1, 2. Why? Because this is the identity which is automatically increasing one by one. Employee ID 1, name Sachin, Sheikh, India, Sachin, CSE, EC is active is 1. Why 1? Because this is the current status of my row. Everything is fine from my state. For example, I'm changing my department CSE to IT. So this is active will be 0, and the next row will be 1. Next row will have all the attributes with the changing name department IT, and this is active will be 0, and this next row will be have 1. Is it clear?
Yeah, Sachin.
So this query, I'm just keeping it remains same, coming back to the input. So one thing we need to create the third part. What is the third part here? The third step is create ADF instances. So the third step I'm going to perform here inside the portal, which will migrate this dataset to this SQL. Right, so I'm going to click on this Azure Data Factory, create Data Factory, going to selecting the same resource group so that they can establish dialog properly. Name ADF underscore Sachin, and then I'm going to click. Oh, that name is cannot have this Sachin. Select another. Yes, I'm going to select. Going to review and create. So now we had data factory. Inside the data factory, we had seen how to create the data set. I'm going to create the new data set here. The first data set, we had created two data sets. So we had the Azure SQL Database, we had the Blob database instances. So inside the SQL, I'm going to keep selecting the SQL. But again, can you see when I type the SQL, multiple SQL database are showing. But you must have clear idea what are the purposes of different this one. This is for RDS. This is the Cosmo DBS, no SQL. So not only SQL, beyond the SQL as well. This is MySQL, not the Azure SQL. But this is Postgre. This is the another instances. But we are focusing on Azure SQL database only. So I'm going
Yeah.
to select this instance, this data set, and currently we do not have any link service, which is just going to select this one. So I'm going to select SQL link service, name it, and going to select my subscription, select the server name. Inside the server name, I'm going to select database Sachin Saxena, and I'm going to test connection here. If it is red, which means we have done something wrong. If it is green, which means all the previous steps are properly defined. But I'm 100% sure people get struggle to make it green in a single shot. Sometimes that connectivity got failed, sometimes firewall creating problem, sometimes your IP address is not having that authenticity. So this must be green over here. I'm going to create this link service. Using this service, I can see all the tables here, and inside this table I'm having this STD table, and I'm going to select the table option. If you can see the preview data, this is showing the data from my SQL server. Can you see? This is the executive, department ID, employee ID, surrender key, everything which we have created here manually for Sachin and Sheikh, two candidates. Sachin and Sheikh.
Yeah.
Not a single row is extra here because everything we are doing from the scratch. I'm going to create new data set here. Inside the new data set, SQL, oh sorry, not the SQL, I'm the selecting blob storage. This Azure blob storage will be there. Continue, and this CSV file is there. Uh, Continue, and this time it's not showing any link service. Why? Because we do not have any link service. I'm going to stop link service. This is going to select the paid subscription, storage account, and if it is fine, again see the test connection. Can you see it's showing connection successfully, creating, and now you can see the same container we had inside the portal. Oh, sorry, inside the container. Can you see inside the storage, inside the containers? Storage containers. We had the input and we had the input.csv. So inside the input, we had the input.csv. If I click OK, can you see this is showing the container name. This is showing the file name. This is showing the directory. So we do not have any directory. So this is the reason it's not showing anything here. Let's select any directory name. So I'm going to select, I'm going to uh, click here container. For example, I'm going to create the container. Let's say this is the source. All right. So I'm going to create this container. Inside the source, I'm going to upload a file. But this file I'm going to upload in a folder. So let's say this is the source underscore folder. So I'm going to browse this file, save input.csv file, but this time I'm going to upload to source folder. Let's upload it here. Can you see this folder is here? And now this CSV file is here. So what exactly we had? We had a container whose name is source. Inside this container, we had the source folder. This is the directory. And inside the directory, what is the file name? Input.csv. All right. Is it the path here? If I go back here, can you see inside the containers, I have the source. Inside the source, I have the source folder. I have the input.csv. Let's do the same thing here. I'm going to browse this one and cancel it out and refresh. Going back, going to continue. Select the same link service, and if I browse this one, can you see now I can see the source, this one, source container. Inside the source, I can see the source folder. Inside the source folder, I can see the input.csv. And you see now it's showing the proper file path. Is it the same file path you can see here? Are these same here?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we have this folder, this is the input file. I'm going to click OK. If you will see, this is properly mentioned here. If you want to see the data set, you can just click over preview data. So this data is showing 1, 2, 3, 4. Sachin, Manish, India, USA, Canada, UK, CSIT, CSEIT. It is the same. We had the input CSV file here. If you look at the same file, this dataset is matching to this CSV file, not the SQL one, because this is not the SQL database. This is the Blob Storage database. So the rows and column structure data you are saying here, this is the just you are going to create this part here. So you just made yourself familiar this, that you have just imported, you are previewing data from the Blob Storage, not the SQL database. This is the SQL dataset, this is the Blob Storage, and this is the structure dataset which we had created the link service and everything. Okay, so I'm going to publish it so that till here we can save everything. If you do not publish, it got unchanged, and by mistake if I close this ADF, it won't be it won't be there. So can you see it's just published here. Now inside the data flow, I'll have to create a new data flow. All right. So inside
Yeah.
this data flow, I'll have to input the source. So many input add resources and add flow set. So I'm going to select the data source here. Right. I'm going to select inside using the source data set. I'm going to select my delimited. Like this is the same data set here. Right. So I'm going to source option, click option, can you see I need to change this as the integer because this is not the integer. By default, if you fetch the dataset from CSV, it treated as the string format. It will be treated this entire dataset as the string because this has been fetched from CSV file and this has been ported from CSV file. If Azure Data Factory included or imported any dataset using the CSV format, it just treated every column as the string format. So we will have to convert into the proper data type. If it is string, if it is any other decimal or any other float, double, and everything, date, timestamp. So we will have to change manually there. So this employee ID is integer format, so I'm going to have to convert there. This is the inspect. Can you see this is showing the proper order? I can see the data preview. In order to see the data preview, I'll have to enable this DataFlow debug. So I'm going to debug for 1 hour only. Click OK, and once it is published, I can see the data set here. Data preview. In the next step, I'm going to add. Click add here and can see the derived column. Why derived column? Because inside this CSV file, if you look at the CSV file here, it's not including the last column here, which is the is active column 111. Here we do not having that column is active. So I'm going to create that column manually. This is the stream name and this is the column. So I'm going to add this is active. This is the column name. So I'm going to keep it changed that this name is adding tip is active. The purpose of this column is active and the name of column is active, right? So what is the name here? Is active. Same name, I'm going to keep it here. And I'm going to keep it expression open expression builder. Going to keep it 1 so that every row will have this one value. So I'm going to keep it 1. If I go back here in the data preview, I must have that column as well. So it's going to fetch the data set till here, till this point. What would be the data set? Showing that part. Okay. So here, how many columns do I have? Can you see it's showing 4 total? How many columns we have? 5 total. Why 4? Why 5?
Total.
Why 4 columns are there? Why 5 columns are here inside this block? Because inside this CSV, employee ID, name, country, department, 4 columns are there. But that is active column was not there. Is active column was not there in my CSV file. So I added it manually using this adding active part. So can you see it's just adding this last column here. This is the last column we just add using this block. This is showing it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 fetching from the CSV, and this last column we add using this one CSV file. All right.
Yes,
All right. So after this, I'm going to add this sync part. This is the sync part. And here, of course, I have selected the blob storage. Now I'm going to select the SQL database. And if I go here in the setting part, I'm going to insert this one and going to see error. If you do not have any error here, I'm going to see map, disable this auto mapping. And can you see it's showing the is active and everything. Few columns are not showing. Surrogate, this is not required. This column is not required for us. I'm going to disable it. I'm going to delete it because that's automatically created. This first column is properly showing. So this is from where? This is from the SQL part. This is from where? This is from the CSV file. So I'm going to name it. This left hand side is showing from the CSV file, and this right hand side is showing from SQL part. It might be seeming that this is the same or input columns, output sign same. But if you look at in the above part, this is the CSV source and this is the SQL source. This is the source here and this is the sync part. And you are seeing the schema of these both on the left hand side and right hand side scenario. All right.
Yes, Sachin.
So I'm going to change this part. This employee ID is showing correct. This name is not there. So I'm going to mapping it manually. This country is not showing. I'm going to make it country here. This department is not showing. So I'm going to make it department. This is showing now. This as active is also there. So I'm going to minimize it right now. And let's see, select this sync part and let's see the data preview. Can we see the same data preview here? Right. So next thing I'm going to import here. This is the add source. I'm going to add one more source here. This is going to source my SQL part. Right. If I go here, can you see this will also showing the same data set here. It's showing 6 columns because inside the SQL database
Data.
we had this one. One is surrender key, employee ID, name, country, department is active. If you count all these columns, it's purely showing all these 6 columns there. So here, this is the reason we are showing this 6 column. So now I'm going to add this select. This is gonna select, and if you can see, this is the showing the same part here. See, this is the selecting part. If I can see the optimize or inspect, so this is showing the same schema. Going to select this one. This is the SQL surrender key. I'm going to name it SQL surrender key. This is so that we will have the different name. We can identify this is the SQL columns. This is SQL country. This is coming from SQL department. This is coming from SQL is active. Alright. If you look at the inspect and data preview, refresh it now, you will see the updated column names. However, we do not have anything here. Either in the SQL, we do not have SQL column names. We do not have in the CSV file. But when we look at this one, can you see the column header name? SQL surrender key, SQL employee name, SQL columns, and
Yeah.
SQL country, and everything is showing here. It's in the format of render updated column. So from this, I'm going to create a new branch. The branch is nothing, just the part of this single pipeline. Inside this branch, I'm going to select something. What exactly I'm going to select? This is the lookup activity. So this lookup activity will see. Oh, where I have source adding. Now in the same data file, I just added this as the lookup activity. Inside the new file, I just click on this one. This is going to add the new branch. Inside this new branch, once I had this new branch, I can see this lookup activity. This is the lookup activity. So from this lookup activity, I just added this setting. This setting is just changing the primary stream as the student file. What is the student file? This is the same reference we are having here. And here we had the student table here, which is the next stream here. So I'm going to select, and this is the selecting column, which we had the select column name. Using this star, you can see this is the select block. This is the select block. So I just added here. So in the this one, if I go back here, if I select my uh, lookup activity, this one is the student primary stream and this is the lookup stream. This is the select one. So when I have select one, it's not showing this match multiple row as the checkbox. So I'm going to checking box select manually. So once I will checkbox, I'll have to match this left column to the right column. The left column is employee ID, right column is SQL employee ID. I just match it manually. When I see the data preview, you can see this is not only showing the employee ID, it's also showing the SQL employee ID and SQL same student and everything. And you can see so many values are null. Why? Because we had these same values are in the available in both here. So this is Sachin and India, and this is what Sachin India CSC. Sachin India CSC, and here we had the employee ID 2 with Manish, employee ID 2 with Sheikh. Look at this one. Employee ID 2 is Manish, and the next one is not there. Can you see? This is showing the 2, and this is showing the Sheikh and Sachin. Everything is showing in a different column, and we can see so many values which is showing the null part here. Let's see what we can see with the null value we want to ignore or we want to keep these null values. So this is kind of left utter join because here we have SQL employee ID, which is adding 1 here, and here we had the left employee ID from the CSV file, which is 1 again. But this is equivalent to left outer join because here you can see employee ID Sachin Sheikh is available, and here you can see Sachin, Manish, Varun, Rahul, everything is showing. So this is the left outer join. We can see the columns from the SQL employee is showing here, and we can see the column name from the employee ID 11 showing here. Now in the same pipeline, I'm going to add something inside the look activity. I'm going to add something. This is called filter. So can you see this filter is there, and inside this filter I'm going to add some expression. What exactly expression is there? This is the filter, and I'm going to match these common employees in both CSV and SQL. So this is going to matching rows. It is going to display matching rows here, and this is the expression here. I'm going to define the filter on which expression. So here I'm going to show the expression here, which is the which will display or depict the common values in both the values, both the rows, both the data file, I would say. So here the expression is like it's kind of where inside the SQL query. So I'm going to show not equal to, this is not null. So I'm going to see this is the not null. It is the expression. So what is the expression here? This is not null, and inside this null value I'll have to put the column name. So what is the column name? This column name is SQL underscore employee ID. So make sure I just put the correct column name. Can you see? This is the column name I want to see. So this is the SQL underscore employee underscore ID. I just save and finish, and just let's see the data preview here. Let's refresh what is the output of this matching row filter, and we are going to fetch this data set over the screen. What kind of data set? Can you see? It is showing Sachin, and it is showing the matching rows which is taking from both the sides. Cake, Sachin, everything is showing from both the sides. What kind of rows do we have? From the SQL employee ID, this is the employee ID, and this is the CSV employee ID. Now I'm going to add one more filter here. This is going to select, going to add a block in front of this matching rows because we need only the SQL query. This is employee ID, name, country coming from CSV file, and I need only this SQL query and all these stuff here. So I'm going to minimize it here and going to select here. This matching row will select this is the select. I'm going to select here, and here only I'm going to select SQL columns, and inside the SQL columns I'm going to remove everything here so that I do not have any confusion here. So I'm going to select this part, delete all these CSV columns, delete, delete, delete. Now I have only SQL part which is showing here. So if you go here and see this data preview, you will find only the SQL columns. Can you see it's going to fetch the data where we had the SQL part. Can you see this is having SQL surrender key, SQL employee ID, SQL name, SQL column, SQL employee ID, everything is showing from common values only. So before moving to the next column, I'm going to add a block which is called derived column in order to make all these column as 0 because these are existing one. So here you can see which column should be this one, which column should be active. This is the SQL is active should be 0 because this is already there. So I'm going to make it 0 so that we can have this value as the 0. Whatever the column is existing, I'm going to add it 0. Let's see, refresh this one. What is the output of this updated one? This must be changed or alter everything from 0. Can you see is active now 0? Because this is the previous data set and now I have changed or altered something. So this is now changed and I'm going to make it 0. If it is not altered, this will remain 1. Now, once we have added the alter rows here, I'm going to add a new transformation. What is the transformation here? This is the alter row because we are going to perform some action here. What kind of action here? For example, if you are going to update anything, so if it is anything updated here, this is the golden star asterisk, golden asterisk. If it is updated, so this condition must be there. I'm going to open expression builder. This must be 1 equal to 1. So whenever it is updated here, it must be marked as changed. So I can see this is the updated if. So let's show the data preview of this altered rows which we have right now altered here. This would be fetching my data set for all these 6 columns. Whatever we had updated here, this should be marked 0. Can you see this is showing the mark 0, which is the updated and which is the altered row here. I'm going to select the sync part here after this alter row. Let's go back here inside the sync row. I'm going to select the sync part. Can you see this sync part is here and which database I need to select? I need to select my Azure SQL database. So this I'm going to select this Azure SQL database so that I can sync everything here. I'm going to drop everything inside my Azure SQL database again. If you can see, this is the preview data. So I can see this would be the preview data set after this sync, after this all the transformation here. We had the SQL column, we had write column, we had alter rows and everything. Okay, so this the system got failed because I do not want to update anything. So here we see this is not the insert option. I want to update everything here. So this is the reason I can see I cannot see any data set here, right? So here I'm not going to keep it and allow insert part. I'm going to insert the allow key. If it is going to keep it, it will through the invalid key fix error. It will ask you to use the fix error. And also you won't get success in the upcoming part. So I'm going to allow updated and this key column it was be selected here. So this is the very interesting part. So the main points we have covered, like for example, if you are going to select the employee ID, it's going to update everything which is matching here. So here I'm going to select the surrendered key because we are going to update everything which is relevant to the surrendered key. Okay, so because this surrender key is not the now the unique key. You may have ID as multiple rows in multiple rows, but surrender key will be have the unique one. So we do not have any error. Let's disable this auto mapping key and you can see this is not properly matching here. So I'll have to match it properly here. So I'm going to select the SQL key. This is going to select the SQL mapping employee ID. This is going to select the name, whatever the name is there. This is SQL name, and I do not have this country name. This is the SQL country, and going to enlarge it here. And I'm going to select the department part. This is the SQL department from the source part, and this is the is active SQL active part from my this file. Once you have disabled this auto mapping, you can see everything showing here. Let's data preview, right? So previously it was showing in this error when I refresh this part, it's showing properly this element. Surrender key, employee ID, name, country, department ID is active. Everything is showing here. Okay, so eventually we are going to perform this syncing part. Both these we had the two, sync one and sync two. What exactly I'll have to do, I'll go with the blank canvas here. I just click over here and I will be this setting and parameter option will pop up here. So now I'll have to reorder in the sync name and sync one, which thing I need to perform first. So if either sync one is selected one or sync two is selected one. So I will be selecting sync two first because here I have the lookup activity. This is just selecting the all the column. I'm going to matching all the rows here. I'm going to select columns, which is the selecting particular key columns here. I'm going to select this drive column. Using this drive column, I just altered all these values, which is based upon alters rows. So now I just select this sync 2. So why I'm going to select, okay, explain this sync 1 here. I'm just adding this sync 1 and this is going to sync into the SQL database. You can see this is going to, if I look at the sync column, sync value, this is going to Azure SQL. So I'm not going to drop all these. I'm not going to deploy all these sync, add all these sync because this is not updated here. I'm going to mark all these value as a 0 first. Then only I'm going to update the rest of the area. This is the reason I'm going to perform this sync first and then this sync one. Otherwise, it will be adding all these sync, all the rows without the updating rows in the final areas sync purpose. So as you can see, I just click on this publishing button and it's going to publish. When it is published successfully, it will show this is published successfully. If it is something error in any of the block or any of the transformation, it will throw an error that this is not the properly mentioned. Now, as usual, I'm going to create this new pipeline. Inside this new pipeline, I'm going to drop a data flow here, and using the drop data flow, I'll have to debug it eventually. So I had dropped this data flow and let's run this data flow in the debug mode. Can you see it's a debugging? Once it is successfully debugging, it will show whether it is properly synced or not, whether it is having that pipeline or not. Now we can see this is just this pipeline has been successfully completed, successfully running here. You can see this data flow is not showing any error. We had succeeded right now. And now I'm going to select this data flow and just look at the database here. Previously it was having only one row. Now I'm having multiple rows here. And can you see this is also having this row value which is showing 0, which is got updated here. So if you scroll right, can you see this is having this 0? Why this is 0? Why these two values are 0? Because this is the updated rows. Here we had all these 1, 1, Sachin Sheikh is just here. So can you see this is 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything is showing here. And we had the 1, 2 employee ID. This is the reason it's showing the 0, 0, everything because Sachin Sheikh is already there. So this is just updated by the CSV file. From here, I just get these two employee ID 1, 2, and from here, from the previous employee ID, I just get the two employees, Sachin and Sheikh. This is the reason it just converted all the is active 0 and rest rows are inserted but with the updated values, updated employee ID, and rest or employee ID is properly showing. This was the application of type 2, SCD type 2. So here you can see this entire data flow is running successfully and we had mentioned everything very properly, very in a sequence way. Thank you for joining. Keep subscribing, keep liking for more videos, more technical parts here. Thank you.